Fantasy Intervention. Now here to intervene with your fantasy life, Chase Vernon. What's going on, guys? Welcome into another episode of Fantasy Intervention, coming at you hot and heavy. And of course, tonight we are joined by the one, the only, Rich Dotson from Dynasty Nerds. What's going on, Rich? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. That sweet intro music, so silky, so smooth.
Oh man, it gets you all warmed up and just ready to rock and roll.
People been telling me for the Dynasty Nerds, like, you need like intro music. We've had the same intro for 7 years straight. Like, we should get some music. And every time we try to get music, I'm like, I hate that, or I don't like that, or I can't do that. But I like that. I like what you got going on. It does. I feel ready to go.
Well, it's kind of funny. Every guest that comes on, like, I can see everybody backstage, right, while this music's playing. Normally, everybody's like dancing, bumping their head, doing a little something else. Shane, I'm pretty sure for Shane it's worse, is literally, banging his head, like just going crazy back there.
Well, he is crazy. Shane is crazy. So.
I love Shane. Yeah, absolutely love him.
I love that dude. Yeah, he's a good dude.
Absolutely. So we do have you on tonight. We're going to be talking about a few different things, but before we dive into it, you want to let everybody know where to find you and what you got going on.
I'm on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, I could tweet at you. You could tweet at me. I'm at Dynasty Rich. I have a website called dynastynerds.com. So if you're into Dynasty Fantasy Football, we try to offer a website that gives you everything you could possibly need to do better in your Dynasty leagues and hopefully come away with what the whole reason we all play that silly game, and that's to win some ships. That's our only goal.
Dude, you got to take it. You got to take that shit, man. Like that's what we're here about, man. That's what we got to do. Yeah. And you guys have a bunch of tools over there at Dynasty Nerds, which is probably like the most fun thing about y'all's entire website, right? I mean, we're sitting there, you have the film room, right? Where you get to check out, just the clips that are divided up into different segments, and you get to watch a whole game of any play that somebody's involved in. So if wide receiver, it might be a running play, but if the wide receiver gets involved in a block, right, you actually get to check that out. And your film room, it's amazing. I've watched it, for years now coming up. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, we take a lot of pride in that film room. We feel like we're the best film room in the market, man. It's we just got a lot of access to all 22, so you'll see a lot of all 22 film in there now too. Like almost all the new film we update is all 22 film. And Dynasty, the big thing is rookies. And a lot of people when Draft Breakdown left, I was like, this is impossible. I got to pick up where they left off, right? Like I need to pick that up, and that was my goal to make that happen. And because it's an important part, because that's what I do. I mean, literally, yesterday was my last show on these rookie breakdowns. And for the last, 4 months, I've spent all my free time watching film on rookies. And it's so nice to have that in one spot to watch these rookies. And we encourage it all the time on the podcast. Like, don't just listen to what we're talking about, see what we're talking about. Like, use that and go watch this tape. Even if it's just a couple games. I mean, it takes, 15 minutes to watch, like, 3 games or 3 guys. So it's a good tool to have to get your eyes on some players. Because there might be one thing that you see that you love, and that's to help you draft that guy. And we all know in Dynasty, you get that one guy, you can have him for the next 15 years, and that's fantastic.
No, that's awesome. And Cooter Doodle's in the chat. She said Dynasty Nerds is going to save herself during the rookie draft. This is her first rookie draft ever. She's just started in Dynasty leagues, of course, so she's very stoked to be watching some of those breakdowns. Absolutely love it. And then you guys also have like the Dynasty GM, which that tool is absolutely insane. Like, I mean, you're talking about rating your teams. You're talking about, showing different values at different positions, whether that's like draft picks or, youth. And it's all based off of the ranking system that you guys have over there as well. But there are so many different things to do in the Dynasty GM. Like, I don't think that I've even touched like the tip of the iceberg when it comes to all the different things I can do. And I've spent hours on it.
Dude, we have got something coming like literally within the next 2 weeks. That we think is going to be a game changer as well, that I'm really stoked about. We're actually, I don't know if you're in that meeting tomorrow, but we're actually going to show our staff tomorrow for the first time what it is. It's it's something simple, but to me, and I'm gonna explain it when it comes out, like why I think it is a game changer. Not only is it gonna be a game changer for like information wise, but it's gonna be a game changer just for like entertainment wise as well. Because again, Dynasty's fun, so we always want to have fun. That's what the Dynasty GM is. I actually wanted to build the Dynasty GM. I had the plans for the GM 2 years before it came out, and that's how long it took it to come fruition. And to me, if you're in more than 3 Dynasty leagues, I don't know why you would not have the Dynasty GM. It's the most functional tool, and the best part about it is, you know, we're people. I'm a man of my word. So like all the memberships we have at Dynasty Nerds, all that money that comes in, we just put it right back into the website in our tools to make sure that we're giving our users the best tools and the best information possible. Again, to get those ships right. Like I don't do this for the money. I do this to grow the game of Dynasty because I love it so much. And the Dynasty GM, if you got the Dynasty GM in August when it launched and where it is today, which is about 6 months later, it's literally night and day of a tool. And we have so many things on the docket, on the timeline to make it even better. I can't wait for everybody to see it.
Of course, we have Dennis in the chat saying, "Damn, Chase, you let anybody on your show." And then he comes back with, "Damn, Rich, you'll go on anyone's show."
I'm a show slut.
Oh, stop it. All right. So, you know, the ridiculous amount of toys that you all have to play with are ridiculous, right? And the best part is you can actually get the whole package for like $50 a year, which I don't know if for those who can't do math, it's only like $4 a month. I mean, it's pretty much nothing, you know? Yeah, a cup of coffee and you get it for a whole month, but that ends up, you know, equivocating out to a whole year. And then it's entirely worth it. If you want to break those two up, then, you know, the Dynasty GM versus like the film room and the rankings, all that other stuff, you're talking about what, $30, I believe, a year. So it's practically nothing. Yeah.
And it's, I said, we believe in like our products so much, like we give you an opportunity to use it for free for 3 days. Like just go ahead and get in there. So
no, I absolutely love it. So you do have this other tool, right, that I did not mention, and that's the Nerd Score, right? So please tell me a little bit about the Nerd Score real quick, and then we will jump into this episode, go hot and heavy on these rookies.
Okay. So the Nerd Score is something that Garrett Price and Jared Wackerly came up with in a meeting a little over a year ago. They wanted to basically break down these rookies on a pure film standpoint only. Like, you know, how good is their contested catchability? How good are they off the line? How's their speed? How are their hands? Like every little minute detail of scouting. They want to give them an individual grade on each skill set, and then combine that score for the Nerd Score. And the goal here is to see if this can, you know, it has nothing to do with anything but their attributes that they do as a player. So they want to get this combined score and see how that could translate over time to see if we come up with a good, accurate system to grade these rookies. Basically, give you more information to help you dominate your rookie draft. And last year was the first year. This is the second year. So we're hoping right around year 3, year 4, we'll have a really good foundation of like evidence saying, hey, this Nerd Score is very validated. This is why you should use this as another tool for your rookie drafts. You know, I know a guy like Najee Harris is one of the highest graded rookies they have ever graded out of 2 years. But you know, I know Jamar Chase is up there, Devontae Smith is up there, right behind. Like I think CeeDee Lamb's the second highest graded player, and I think it was either Devontae Smith or Jamar Chase or Najee Harris. Somebody broke that this year. CeeDee Lamb's 2 all time, but you can see that on the site, like all their grades individually. Yeah,
and how they compare. It was actually Devonta Smith, but they actually didn't have, the craziest part was they did not have, you know, somebody that was a, what do they call it? Where is it? The generational talent, you know, which I thought was very, very interesting. So, you know, they still have yet to grade somebody above there. And honestly, like, you know, CeeDee Lamb, like he still didn't have the weight down, right? He still didn't have like the big physical presence that you want to see. And I think that might have had, you know, a piece to play in it. I'm very interested to see who their first player will be that actually breaks that 85 overall score.
That will be interesting. I mean, we gave him a lot of, I mean, again, it's their own eyes and their own scouting. Like we gave Garrett a lot of crap on Justin Jefferson when he gave us a score on like, you know, his contested catchability and stuff like that. Like, what are you doing? Like that needs to be significantly higher, but we're not graded. You know what I mean? Cause like I don't even have time to get that deep into that kind of stuff, but that's their baby. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who can break that score. Cause if guys are coming out like, you know, CeeDee Lamb was a fantastic talent, but I mean, when's the last time we saw a running back and a receiver that we said was a generational talent? Like I'm trying to think of.
No, I don't think there are that we saw as coming out as a prospect. That is,
In the last 5 years, I don't remember any off the top of my head.
Well,
I mean, Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, you could say Saquon. You could say I don't think CMC was a generational prospect.
No. He wasn't even the second
Zeke
running back.
Yeah, no. Yeah, Zeke was probably one.
I remember people calling me Ohio State homer because when Zeke was coming out, I said Zeke could be arguably the number 1 dynasty running back coming out. That was my argument coming out. And people were like, oh, you're just an Ohio State homer. And then like literally the following year, like he was the rookie. He was like the dynasty 1-1 overall. Like he was that. So I think Zeke could probably break that grade. Saquon would obviously break that grade, I think. Yeah, it's kind of that. But like I'm even trying to think receiver wise. Like when's the last receiver we saw come out? I mean, one of the last highest receivers we saw drafted was Corey Davis, and he ain't breaking that mold. So it is interesting. Now, that's a good point. I'm going to ask those guys next time I see them tomorrow night. I'm like, hey, you going to see anybody break that 85 score?
It might be next year. Who knows? But I guess, so you said it's pretty much just all based off of, what they see with their eyes. So the pro days and the combine, that doesn't have any factor in this whatsoever, huh?
No, pro days are scams. That's like me showing up that's like me showing up with a toupee. I'm not bald, but like me showing up with a toupee of long glowing hair, and I'm wearing like dentures and all kinds of things, and I've got makeup all on to hide my ugly face, and just be walking into the garage hiding this nose bump I got on my face. It's like look at this year's pro days. Like all their 40s are escalated, because it's all different tracks. I would say the combine should factor in. I think they might use the combine, but I think it's strictly just off their tape in their production and what they see on tape. Like it's a nerd score from their tape. So it's literally a tape reviewed process. I don't think anything matters. Pro days certainly wouldn't matter. I put no merit in pro days. Am I like scouting? Like I'm not a scout, so I hate to say when I'm scouting, but when I'm watching tape, and I'm reviewing these players, I can give 2 craps about their pro day because it's all like inflated numbers.
Well, I feel like the pro day could be a validation of what you watch on film. So like, you say, oh, this player has, this much burst off the line. Then all of a sudden you see a pro day where it validates it with his broad jump or, possibly his vertical,
the combine.
You see that explosion.
Combine does that for me. Yeah. Combine, not the pro day. Yeah. The combine does that for me. The pro day, not because the pro day is designed to put that player in a situation to look better for the scouts that have attended. The NFL, the combine is there to give you all their medical and like show you on an equal playing field what this player can do, And I think a lot of that too is like if a player shows up and he's out of shape or he fails a drug test or, he does something. So it's like, dude, you had months to practice for that. So that shows me something about your mental too. You know what I mean? Like when these guys show up and they fail a drug test for the combine, I'm like,
that's insane to me. That makes no sense. It absolutely blows my mind.
It does. It's insane, man. Like it's like, but again, I've seen a lot of people do a lot of stupid things in life, so nothing really shocks me whatsoever.
Oh man, and then like the players that get hurt or whatever the case is that still choose the test, on this equal playing field, whatever the case is. There's just so many different variables that take effect in the combine that necessarily wouldn't take effect for the for the pro days like you brought up. So real quick, I do want to talk about these scores, right? I want to talk about some of the scores where I'm like, okay, this doesn't seem right, or like this seems too good to be true, something along those lines. And I know that it's not you doing the test, it's Jared, right? And then Garrett.
Garrett, and they have one other person on there. I can't remember who the name of who was helping out with that, but there's a couple guys that are involved in the nerd score, and they combine their scores together to get the ultimate score. That way it's not lopsided whatsoever. So it kind of equals out that way.
No, that's cool. And that's the best way to do it, to be honest, without having too many people, that might not know exactly what they're talking about with their hands in the pot. So we're going to talk about, Garrett and Jared and whoever else the third person is while they can't defend themselves. It's perfect time. But yeah, if you guys want to get a hold of these nerd scores, you guys can go to dynastynerds.com. And once again, you can have the option of either getting the GM package or getting the separate package. I recommend you guys get both because the separate packages are $30 a piece for a year. The one package is just $50 a piece, and it is absolutely worth it 100%. I use it. I love it through and through.
Yeah,
I swear by it.
The big thing on that too is we've been saying on the podcast, with all this new development, we've been unloading bags of cash into development. We're actually going to raise the price of that probably after this new tool launches. But if whoever locks in now, they're grandfathered in for that price forever. I think we're only raising like $10, but you're locked in forever. So you got to build new things, got to pay for them.
Love it. Absolutely love it. All right. So once again, I want to know your personal thoughts about, each one of these guys at each position that we talk about. You guys mainly focus on the wide receivers and on the running backs for now. So the first thing that I noticed that Dynasty Nerds actually has more higher end prospects than 2020, but also a deeper class in 2020 at wide receiver. There are three receivers with over an 80 rating compared to only CeeDee Lamb from last year, and 15 receivers over 70 compared to 13 from last year. So sitting there and looking at like 2020, I feel like it's more of like a hit or miss, right? Like I feel like it's more, you have these high upside guys like Rondale Moore, for example, who has all the potential in the world, but could also potentially be a bust. So
yeah, I think he's a little overrated.
Yeah, I mean, but he could end up being a superstar. Maybe could end up being Tyreek Hill, like they're all saying out there. So
that's I don't like that comp at all. But yeah, okay.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying it, but I've seen it. So
yeah,
is this year more of a risk reward type situation than last year, or do you think that it's more deep as a whole?
So here's how I feel about it. I feel after watching all the tape now, finally that I can watch until NFL draft, I feel like this 2021 class was a little overblown. It was a little better. It was like we went to the 21 class, think it was to be amazing class, and it's a very good class. It's very top heavy, but I think the 2020 class is better, and that's even obviously when you know the outcome. I think it's better. But even going into it, I think it was a little bit deeper with talent. This class is pretty top heavy, but I mean we're much more shallow at running back. The receiving class is very top heavy. Then you have a second tier, and then the third tier is just like this giant group of guys that are most likely probably going to be just okay. Hopefully you turn into wide receiver 3 guys, where last year was a solid group of receivers going all the way down to like Michael Pittman, Denzel Mims. Those were like good quality guys. Brian Edwards was the last group of that guys who should take a big step forward this year. But the running back class is very shallow this year. You got 3 guys basically, and then a couple guys. The quarterback class obviously pushes this to a whole nother level for a super flex league because you got 5 guys you could take here in the first round of your rookie draft, where last year you didn't have that 5 quality guys, which that's going to push all that talent back to the second round of your super flex draft. But I think after looking at last year's wide receivers and this year's wide receivers, I would take last year's group over this year's group. Now there's some very high upside guys. I mean, I said yesterday, watching a guy like Jalen Waddle is a fun person to watch because the sky is the limit from fantasy football production. Because again, when I scout these players and I'm watching these players, I'm not watching to see, what they're going to do for their NFL team. I'm looking at my fantasy football possibility. Like how many points can I get out of a player? And when you watch a guy like Jalen Waddle, it's like watching a video game. It's like, he's like a different species of human being when you watch him. Like when he runs and you have these other like young kid athletes running, he's on a whole different planet of speed than everybody else. So when you mention Tyreek Hill and you say Rondale Moore, I'm like, no way. When you mention Tyreek Hill and you say Jalen Waddle, I mean, he's about as close as you get to that, right? I mean, he lacks the lateral agility that a Tyreek Hill has, but he has that speed, the route running ability, and the hands that to give you that Tyreek Hill, which is big plays anytime he touches the ball, and big plays equal a lot of fantasy points, and that's what I am looking for. So Jalen Waddle is fantastic. Devontae Smith is smooth as silk. You know what I mean? Like
I like that. Devontae Smooth. Can we just call him that from here on out?
That's my new name for him going forward.
Perfect. Perfect.
Jamar Chase, obviously a very solid receiver who didn't play last year too. So you have those 3 guys that are very, very good upside players there. Then you can enter the Rashad Bateman and Elijah Moore category for me, which are like 2 of the safest players in this draft. Like, wide receiver 2s probably for sure. Yeah, I would say.
Wow. Okay.
Not as highly likely to be wide receiver 1s. Obviously, Elijah Moore has that like poor man's Antonio Brown upside. Rashad Bateman, just somebody who's always going to get open. It could be like a Robert Woods-esque, right? Wide receiver 13, wide receiver 13. Ooh, boom, wide receiver 1 for a year, that's priceless in fantasy football if you get that kind of quality production over 6 years. But then after that, you're getting some guys that have some question marks. You mentioned Rondale Moore. This is a guy that some people have as your wide receiver 1. I have no idea how that's possible. I like him. I think he's a very solid receiver. It's just I don't see him ever as like that wide receiver 1. He does a lot of nice things, but I don't look at him as a number 1 wide receiver in an NFL team. And you don't have to be a number 1 wide receiver, but I think Terrace Marshall offers more upside than a Rondale Moore, personally. Just me personally.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm actually a big Terrace Marshall fan, so we will be talking
too.
about that here in a little bit. But before we do, I mean, looking at this nerd score, there's one player that really pops off the screen for me, right?
Oh, I know who it's going to be. I know who it's going to be.
Oh, who you got? Who?
Austin
Tell
Watkins.
Me. Yeah, who is that? Who the hell is Austin Watkins? My mind is so blown. Who is this guy?
We did that. We did a group mock draft with like Matthew Berry, Chad Parsons, a lot of people like big names in the industry. I was like, I'm taking Austin Watkins in the first. I mean, basically, who's Austin Watkins? Start with his last name. He's the cousin of Sammy Watkins, right? Ooh. And he's 6'2", 207 pounds, and just a very solid receiver. Now he's coming out of the UAB, University of Alabama, so it's a small time school. There's a lot of things that he does. I mean, he's that big-bodied physical receiver that looks like he could be a very solid prospect. And what's nice about his score and what's nice about talking about a guy like Austin Watkins is what you want to talk him up is because we're not saying take Austin Watkins in the first round, but when you start to get that mid-range second round, definitely in this class where there's a lot of guys that don't offer a lot of upside, Austin Watkins does. And he's probably not on a lot of people's radar. So we're just really encouraging people, hey, put him on your radar, go watch the tape. And this is a guy you should probably end up taking mid-second round. Let's see where he gets drafted. But he's gonna be somebody that gets a ton of abundance of contested catches. Now, he doesn't get a lot of separation, and that's why he finds himself in a lot of contested catch situations. But he's a big-bodied receiver at 6'2", 207 pounds with really good hands. There's a small school prospect that offers some really good upside to the fantasy football community. Like if you like a guy like Seth Williams, right, who's a bigger name out of Auburn, like Sammy Watkins is like a Seth Williams, but just actually much better at wide receiver than a guy like Seth Williams. So we're most of the community, because he went to Auburn and he's a bigger name, we're going to take Seth Williams, a gauge like a guy who's not very good at all, Sage Surratt. Some people aren't even going to know who Austin Watkins is. And Austin Watkins offers a superior, in my opinion, a superior ceiling than those guys for the fantasy football community.
Where do you see him going in drafts? Like, is he just like a 4th, 5th round lock, or like, are you taking him as early as the 3rd round?
I haven't really. I've been so dug in, honestly, Chase, with like my prep and the businesses I run, and like when I'm not doing that, I'm literally just watching film. So like this time of year, I don't have any time to focus on where people are going
projections,
in mock drafts and stuff like that. It's because I'm just so focused on giving our audience my accurate description of this time. Like I don't want to go on the show and describe a player, because we've done such a good job of that over the last 7 years. Like I feel like it's our bread and butter, is like breaking down these rookies, because where a lot of people are going left, we're going right sometimes. And I feel like we've been right more than we've been wrong. So I don't know. I haven't seen him go in a lot of mock drafts, but to be fair, I haven't been looking. I haven't been participating. We have a ton of writers that do those mock drafts. So I've just been so deep into this tape that even like after we got done recording the shows last night, I was like, I could breathe. Now I can do it. And we're actually going to do our first rookie mock draft this Sunday. So I'm just now going to get in this platform of seeing where he's going to go. So if I had to guess off the top of my head, he's going back end of the 2nd, top of the 3rd, which is I'm okay with. Depends on what kind of league, but I prefer him right now, receiver wise. If I was going that way, probably mid to back end of the 2nd.
Oh, wow. Okay. So is that high up for you?
But I want to see where he gets drafted too. I mean,
yeah, that's a big part of it, obviously.
It's easy to say like you like these guys' film, but then they get drafted in a bad situation, right? I always go back to the guy of like Leonte Carew coming out of Arizona State. Like a lot of people liked his film. He was talked up as a potential 1st round pick. Then he gets drafted by Miami a little bit mid-round in the draft, and he's just absolutely buried. We saw Hakeem Butler, right? Hakeem Butler, a 1st round dynasty startup rookie pick pre-draft. After draft, people like, maybe not, And the NFL draft will tell us some things and kind of flip the script on some of those rankings. So I'm real interested to see where he goes, because we've got to be very careful this year, Chase, with these receivers. We've seen such an influx of young, talented receivers in the NFL and running backs. Like, yeah, a lot of these guys need to go to situations where they're going to get opportunity, because if you're not getting an opportunity or there's not a path for you to play, then you're not scoring fantasy points. And then that's going to really hurt your value in my eyes, and it's hurt your value in everybody's eyes.
No, that makes perfect sense. I think landing spot is extremely, extremely important for a lot of the receivers this year. People like De'Ami Brown, who really couldn't get off the line when they were in press coverage. If he ends up with Arizona, where they don't move guys around, they give guys up the line, they snap it right off the bat. They don't do motions, they don't call audibles. If he gets lined up against a press corner, he's not going to be getting the ball anytime soon. So players like that, you need to move around. The landing spot is so dependent. But one of the guys that I don't think is as dependent and, on landing spot, and I was a little bit disappointed in the rankings or ratings, was Kadarius Toney. And normally film guys love Toney, right? Like the metric guys hate him because he was a late breakout. But the guy was a previous quarterback. He comes in. He was a gadget player for 3 years. First chance he actually had to be a full-time wide receiver. He did extremely well. And, you're sitting there, and I was curious about the catch rating, right? Because he has a poor catch rating, but he only had a 2.4% drop rate and then sustained an injury to his ribs to start out the Senior Bowl. So, when he had his drops at the Senior Bowl while running those drills, they were saying that he was having issues reaching out and actually snagging the ball because of his, rib injury. So sitting there and looking at it, like his physicality I thought was on point. So am I missing something with the process, or how did you feel about Kadarius Toney when you watched the game film?
So going into Kadarius Toney, my first impression was the Senior Bowl of Kadarius Toney, to be fair for him. Because I don't watch a lot of college football during the season. I'm too busy. I'm too busy with the NFL. I got kids, I got a business to run. I got multiple businesses to run. So like I'm so into NFL football. I don't put a lot of time in it, like football. Like I watch college football, don't get me wrong, enough of the big games. So like I didn't watch Florida, I don't care about Kyle Trask and everything like that. So my first impression was Kadarius Toney, the Senior Bowl, like, wow, he's dropping a lot of balls. And I knew the name Kadarius Toney, right? So I went in and watched the tape recently, and I came away completely impressed. Like I totally pivoted on Kadarius Toney and like digging into him. And like you said, he's got a really good release off the line. I mean, his ends around of the backfield, he's very talented there. His open field vision is very talented. And what I really came impressed after digging into him too is this kid was playing quarterback in high school. So he's been only playing a wide receiver position for a couple of years. So he's got a lot of room to grow. So Kadarius Toney to me, he offers a lot of upside. I came away really impressed with this film because I had a really bad first impression of him going into it. And which is completely the opposite. A lot of these guys had a good impression, like on the outside looking in. Like if you read Twitter, right? Like Twitter's going to give you a lot of impressions of how you should think of a player. So going into it, like, oh, I know this name, like De'Ami Brown. I came away unimpressed with De'Ami Brown, and he was a big name going into it. I was like, oh, okay, no thanks. But Kadarius Toney, I had the complete opposite effect. I watched his tape, and I was like, this guy has a lot of talent. Like his hands are way better than I thought it was. I didn't see him drop many balls at all. And his biggest knock is only at that one high level of season production. But the kid's only been playing wide receiver for a short period of time. And this is a guy that needs that, like he had Kyle Pitts to offset him, right? And I envision him being in a situation about
Jared Wackley hops in the chat right in the middle of his spiel, asking Rich about his nose.
Yeah, listen to the podcast. I have my garage door right around nose level and has a little metal plate on the bottom. And I turned around and went to walk hastily out of my garage right into my garage door. Now I look like I'm fighting Rocky or Jake Paul. Or,
you could have said something like that instead, Just saying. Say you got in a fight with Aaron Donald. You'll be good. If he did that to the other guy.
I'd be dead. We wouldn't be talking.
Anyways, yeah. So, I mean, I love Kadarius Toney. I mean, he didn't go down. That was his center of balance was incredible. And I was a little bit I was a little confused as to the ranking or the rating over there. So,
yeah, even for a guy like of his size, I mean, he's 5'11", 193. He's not afraid to go outside of his catch radius to make some plays here as well. I mean, he's a pretty electric player. I like him. I envision him like what I'm curious about Toney is like where he's going to go and who's he playing opposite of. Because I don't want Toney to be the number one. There's a lot of guys in this draft that aren't number one wide receivers, but we know in today's NFL that you don't need to be a number one wide receiver to put up high success for fantasy football production. There's tons of teams that are putting up wide receiver ones, multiple ones. The Cleveland Browns had 2 running back ones last year. So there's a lot of opportunity. And I think like Kadarius Toney is one of those guys who had Kyle Pitts to offset him at Florida, could use somebody really good. Like if you put Kadarius Toney in Green Bay opposite of Devontae Adams, I mean, look out. That'd be fair. You put a lot of people opposite of Devontae Adams and say, look out. Let me look at Robert Tonyan last year. So I do. I'm with you. I'm a Toney fan.
Should we invite Jared in to defend himself?
What's he arguing about?
He's not arguing right now. I'm just saying, because it's his rankings ratings along with Garrett.
Yeah, if you want nerd score, you should invite that dude. If you want nerd score like feedback, like that's the guy you want to talk to. It's his baby. That's his baby. And they love that thing. But I mean, I look at like when you talk about Rondale Moore, it's like, oh, why pay such a high price for Rondale Moore when you could draft Kadarius Toney? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of Kadarius. I think that he's going to work out. I think he's going to get targets regardless of where he goes. I don't think there's a bad landing spot for Kadarius Toney.
No, he's what NFL teams are looking for these days. You know what I mean? Like a guy can get out there and run some routes, be moved all over the field, who's electric in the open field, has got really good hands, can make the back, track the ball, make the over shoulder catch. He's a very solid prospect. And I said, I can't wait to see where he is going to be in 2022 as he grows under an NFL coach, right? Like he's got a lot of growing to do at the position. So I'm excited to see where Kadarius Toney ends up. He offers a lot of upside over most of these receivers. He's definitely in that next tier of receiver for me.
I love that. Now, the community, right, is climbing like crazy up boards right now with different players, right? So we talk about like Terrace Marshall, who is just flying up boards, which, you brought up earlier. I mean, does he have a chance to like outperform his score like similar to T. Higgins did? Do you think he outperforms what, he's doing over there?
I like T. Higgins more than I like Terrace Marshall, but I know like Garrett, like my co-host Garrett does not like Terrace Marshall. And I know my other co-host Matt does like Terrace Marshall. And I've liked him. Like when I put out my initial rankings, I think like a week and a half ago, I had Terrace Marshall in the first round. And a lot of people were like, ooh, Terrace Marshall. I'm like, yeah, Terrace Marshall. Like who else in this draft offers more upside than him after him? Like, and after doing more scouting, like I'd rather have Terrace Marshall than Rondale Moore personally, because I just think he offers more fantasy football upside. 6'2.5", almost 6'3", 205 pounds, the number one recruit coming out of high school. And not only that, like he got hurt in high school and he was still the number one wide receiver recruit coming out. A guy who comes out here, ran a really solid route tree. His hands, again, I think his biggest knock is going to be his hands. He can be a little bit more consistent in that area, but he's an explosive big wide receiver. He has a chance to be a true number one on a team. So for me, in this class filled with smaller slot receivers, there's not many big guys out there, and there's now almost no big guys out there that are as big and athletic as Terrace Marshall. So anytime you give me an opportunity to choose between a small slot receiver or a true big receiver that can play Z or X, give me that guy every time.
Well, I mean, we thought we are going to have more, but Rashad Bateman shrunk 3 inches since high school. So
it blew. I love this tape too, man, because I didn't know his measurables, but like watch this, like throughout the whole process before, I was like, I'm gonna have Rashad. Before I even started, I said before I watch this, I'm probably gonna end up having Rashad Bateman higher than anybody else in the community. But then Rashad Bateman just kept going and going up in the community, and then I was like, okay, I leveled out, and yeah, he shrunk 2 inches. It's like, where's Rick Moranis?
Dude, he was 6'3" in high school, and then he was 6'2" in college.
Honey, I shrunk the Bateman.
Dude, it's Benjamin Buttons all over again. So it's crazy to me. But no, I mean,
he's a fantastic receiver, man. Like the dude's always open. He's so good. He runs very good routes. He's a very smart football player. That's why I said in the beginning of the show, like he's a very safe player. Like if you can get open in the next level, right? That's the thing. You don't have to be the fastest guy. Like your 40 time doesn't have to be fast. If you could run really, really good routes and get open and have a competent quarterback that can process his reads, you're going to catch footballs. And every time I check, most people play in PPR leagues, every time you catch a football, you're getting a little bit more fancy points under your belt. So Rashad Bateman to me is a very safe player. Like I don't think I would almost call him a can't miss. I really would. Like he's that safe to me.
Oh, wow. That's pretty crazy. Cause I was like more on the train of like, I mean, not the same exact player. He's actually like a poor man's Josh Doxson to an extent.
Oh, no, Josh Doxson was just fun to watch.
He was really fun to watch. But when it came to like making the plays on the outside, I just felt like I was watching a similar player, not the same, but similar. And then I found out how short he was, and I was like, okay, they're not at all the same.
Yeah, I didn't. That's a weird comp to me because I don't see that at all. Like Josh Doxson was like that acrobatic, like who's the receiver in this class that right? There's a receiver in this class. See, this is a problem. I haven't sat down to process all these guys as a whole. So some of these guys are blending into me. I could picture the player, but can't think of the name. Acrobatic receiver. Damn. Was it Tamarian Taylor?
Oh, Jonathan Adams is what Jared Wackley said.
Okay. See, Jared knows he's our producer, so he pays attention to everything I say. Jonathan Adams, a guy who he reminds me of Josh Doxson, right? He's fantastic to watch. He's fun. Like if you watch your highlight film, you're like, this guy's going in the first round. And then you watch your game tape, like, oh, that's all they really did. That great.
Well, I mean, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't like the plays over the middle and the acrobatic catches he was making diving, but on the outside, like, back shoulder type passes and whatnot, and some of the deeper balls that he caught. I just felt like I was watching the same player on the outside, just not with the same level of talent that Josh Jackson had.
Were you a big Kelvin Harmon fan? Because I know I
was.
was.
Absolutely not.
You were? Was. Yeah, because the way he did, like exactly what you just said, the way he would dominate the sideline. Like he would body up and dominate that sideline. And I thought he was going to win there consistently at the next level. I was actually a big fan of his. I thought he was going to be a very solid receiver.
I actually
maybe, possibly, probably not.
Tweeted about somebody today that made me feel that same way, but he's only 6 foot and he broke the vertical jump record. So that's actually kind of where I was sitting with that one. But all right, I want to take a look real quick at a wheel of names, right? It's a random name picker. And we're actually going to go across a few of the guys with landing spot. And I want you to let me know. I want you to let me know if you feel good about this landing spot and if that player actually increases their value or decreases their value. We're just going to go with 5 guys, 5 teams, and we're going to roll from there. You ready?
Yeah, so this is pretty cool. Yeah. All right, let's do it.
All right, the first player up on our list is going to be Devonta Smith.
Okay.
All right. So let's go ahead and spin the wheel for Devonta Smith and where he's going to land. Because honestly, this is so weird. Like all these different teams and stuff. Like, I mean, I've seen people that were mocking Jamar Chase to Atlanta, which I don't think is that crazy. I think it's a little bit weird, but it's not that crazy. So we could see certain players, kind of slide down the draft boards. Maybe other teams move up to make a play for some of these guys. So
that'd be a weird pick in my eyes.
It would, but I mean, I don't think it's like, insane or outlandish, especially if Atlanta feels like the offense could win. So let's go ahead and let's.
And then you say Kyle Pitts. Yeah, spin that wheel. Let's go, Chase.
All right, here we go. For Devonta Smith.
Oh, I love it.
Going straight there to the Dolphins.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Do you think it's the late first round pick? First off, like, do you think it's the late first round? Or
no, I don't think Devonta Smith goes late first round. He's too talented. I think his floor is the middle of the first. But it's hard to say. The NFL draft's always crazy. There's tons of guys you go like, how'd he go so far down? And he's good, and then he ends up being good. Wait, Washington. Is it Washington or is it
no, it was the Dolphins.
Okay, the Dolphins.
I took them out. They got removed.
So why I love Devonta Smith at the Dolphins would be fantastic is one, he has the opportunity to be the number 1 targeted player in that offense. And again, that's a situation I like any player to be in because the more targets you get, the more opportunity you have for fantasy football production. And the way Devonta Smith plays, he's so silky smooth. All right, remember, he's Devonta Smooth, not Devonta Smith.
Yeah, he's Devonta Smooth from here on out.
What I like about that too is not only is for this year, but Miami Dolphins have tons of draft capital going forward. So they are in a position to build a very solid team with all these young, talented players. And when you have young, talented players, you have them in the cheap. So you can add high-profile free agents if you want to, or sign whoever you want. But you can go into a situation with other receivers around him, Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki. I'm very confident they're going to draft one of these talented young running backs. They're going to get Devontae Williams. They're going to get Najee Harris, or they're going to get Travis Etienne. So for here to go here with Tua Tagovailoa and be that short intermediate receiver for Tua, who he already has some playing experience with. So there's already a rapport there as well with Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, didn't he catch Tua Tagovailoa's game-winning championship touchdown when Tua came in for the national championship game? So this for me would be a great spot because he's going to come in here and immediately be the most talented receiver on that roster and be in the position to catch the most footballs right out the gate. He could be a 95 catch rookie season. He could be that guy that jumps on the field and like everybody thinks he's fantastic. And that's important because scheme and situation is very important. Tim Couch, if he would have went to the Eagles, could have been, a playoff quarterback. But instead he went to the expansion Browns and he was out of the league in a couple of years because he got destroyed. Derek Carr went to the Texans. He got destroyed. Some people never stand a chance.
So that was Devonta Smith to Miami, by the way. I clicked the button too early. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you to an extent. I'm a little bit concerned because I feel like, he could have a similar game to Will Fuller when it comes to deeper targets. But I think Will Fuller could slide to the slot. And we saw Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks both coexist in that offense last year. I'm interested to see how Devontae Smith would fit into most of the offenses, but I think he'd fit in this offense well.
I don't like that comp either because I think they're two completely different players. I mean, Will Smith coming out like he's mostly that vertical threat. Like Devontae Smith is such a good route runner. You know, I mean, he's got those really long limbs, and he's got, I mean, his hands compared to Will Fuller's. I mean, first of all, Will Fuller's hands are very tiny. He's got very small, tiny hands, smells like cabbage. And like Devontae Smith's hands are tremendous, arguably the best in his class, you know? So, I mean, to me, he's very safe, and he's going to give Tua, a young quarterback, a very safe target. And I think they could operate him very short off the line there if they want to. He dominates on the sideline as well. So I wouldn't give any worry about there. I think the one spot I would be a little bit more worried about for a guy like Devontae Smith would be like maybe like the Bengals, where they have T. Higgins and they have Tyler Boyd. So maybe there's a little bit less targets to go around. Maybe that's about it. But like I think out of all those teams that you said that you showed me there, I think obviously anybody that goes to the Packers with offset Devontae Adams is a home run, right? That's an easy way out. That's the ESPN showcase way to go. But I think the Dolphins would be best case scenario for a guy like Devontae Smith. Again, familiar with the quarterback already, so they already know each other, and he's immediately coming in and being the best receiver in that roster. You can make the starting argument with the Colts being the best receiver on the roster. Yeah. Obviously, you go to Washington, they have Terry McLaurin there, who's a very talented receiver. But when you go to Miami on a team that's, you got to argue, is going to be up and coming here with the next couple of years. I mean, we saw they're almost in contention for the playoffs last year under Brian Flores. So I think this is a very good situation in Miami for him.
I like the fit. I do. All right. So let's go with the next player. Who do we have up? We have Ja'Marr Chase is up next. Here we go. Spinning the wheel.
Ja'Marr Chase. It's amazing how many of these people talk about Ja'Marr Chase. I mean, they talk about like he's the second coming of Julio Jones, which kind of confuses me a little bit. Like, it's weird because like if you say anything bad about a player that's number one, it sounds like you don't like the guy, which I like Ja'Marr Chase a ton. He's a very talented receiver, but it's like, I don't know, man. Like he could be a little bit more physical in my eyes. He could do a little bit more in that standpoint. I think so. Not from like the contested catch part of it, but like just like being like a number one, like be invested on every single play. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I guess that was one of the biggest hits was, he took plays off from time to time.
Yeah.
And especially if the ball wasn't coming his way or he knew it was coming his way because he was the, tertiary option. So it makes it interesting with Ja'Marr Chase. But, with the Colts, they're run first team, right? They already have Paris Campbell, who, if he's healthy, could play a role in the offense. They already have Michael Pittman as, their typical X receiver. Where does Ja'Marr Chase, does he actually lose if he fits into the situation on a run first offense?
No, I don't think he would lose some here because I think even a run first offense, I mean, you could argue that, the Vikings were a run first offense and they had two wide receiver ones going into it in Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson, or back at the time it was Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, two wide receiver ones on a run first offense. So to me, I think you could still win there. I mean, Kirk Cousins, there's a lot of teams that run first, but still a passing league. So again, Ja'Marr Chase would go into the situation being the most talented receiver on this roster. So he would slide in where he would go in this draft. He'd slide in and be the number one receiver on this team. I love Michael Pittman a ton. I'm actually a big Paris Campbell fan as well, but I like Paris Campbell's slot. That'd be great for Carson Wentz because that's a lot of young weapons. You have a very good speedster and solid route runner in Paris Campbell. You have the huge, big X receiver in Michael Pittman. And then you can move Ja'Marr Chase off the ball, give him a little bit of step back in the Z. And that's a lot of weapons to go around. I think that'd be really good for Michael Pittman in my eyes. I think Ja'Marr Chase there.
Yeah, I think it would open up targets, get that double coverage or bracketed coverage off him. I think this is the most unrealistic landing spot, though, out of all the ones 100%. We have so far. This is the one that is the least likely that would happen. So
they would have to
go ahead. Yeah, and they're not going to do that because that's not what the Colts do. But we're going to go ahead and get that one off the screen, and we're going to go with our next receiver. We're going to have Jalen Waddle. So here we go. Which one do you want to see here?
I would want to see the Packers.
Okay, let's see what happens. Because I think that's actually a great one. Although I like MVS still. There it is. Yeah. The Packers.
I mean, the way Devontae Adams gets off the line, right? You're double teaming Devontae Adams every single time. You got Tony, you got Aaron Jones there. You know how many short screens and bubble screens you could set up for Jalen Waddle and watch him just explode onto the NFL level, or even the deep ball, right? With Aaron Rodgers' arm and accuracy, having just sending on Jalen Waddle on some sluggos and go routes and like, there you go. From Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest quarterbacks we've seen in our lifetime. I mean, this would be, again, a very unrealistic opportunity here, but a home run spot for Jalen Waddle, because he does absolutely everything he does is completely different than anything else they have in their roster, right? Like you mentioned Washington, like, oh, they got Terry McLaurin there. He's got good speed, but here Packers have nobody on that level that offers nobody to take the top off like a guy like Jalen Waddle could.
Yeah, I think MVS can, but his character flaws, or his player flaws are obviously, tremendous when it comes to dropping balls, not paying attention, fumbling, in crucial situations. So I think it's a very, very good fit. I'm somebody that wants to see, Terrace Marshall actually end up there, because I think that he's a superior Allen Lazard type player. Yeah. But it'll be very interesting to see which way the Packers go. And honestly, I think that Jalen Waddle is the most likely to slip out of the big three, essentially, when it comes to Jamar Chase and Devonta Smith.
See, what I'm hearing is some of the guys that I trust inside the NFL circles, that some people have Jalen Waddle as the number one receiver. I mean, look what happened to Henry Ruggs last year. People respect it out of that. I actually think a player that, like, I think the most realistic option here for the Packers going receiver is going to be Elijah Moore, who I love. Again, how we talked about like Chase takes some plays off. That's what I love about Elijah Moore. He never takes a single play off. Like, he's coming out the gates hot every single time, run the same. Like, he's tricking defensive backs every time. So I think it'd be a good spot for him. But I don't think I would bet anything that Waddle does not slip out of the top 15. Like, I'd be surprised if he slipped out of the top 12. Like, do you think like he would slip past the Giants? There's no way. And they pick at 11.
I think the Giants have a lot of holes to fill, and I think it depends on who's there, like an Elijah Vera Tucker or somebody that they can end up taking. But I mean, Elijah Moore does have the softest hands, by the way, in the entire draft. He's one of the softest hands I've ever seen when it comes to catching the ball. Just the record.
That kid, I'm telling you, man, that kid's tape is tremendous. I think my co-host Matt O'Hara said the other day, like, if he was 6'1" and 200 pounds, he'd be breaking that nerd score of 85. You know what I mean? Like, he has very little things to critique. Like, the kid comes out, he plays hard every single time. He explodes off the line. His route running is extremely savvy. I mean, you watch this kid run the sluggo route. I mean, the way he fakes that out, like the way he gets back to the quarterback and be gone, it's disgusting. Like you mentioned, his hands, he's catching balls on his fingertips off the dirt.
It's insane. His ability to catch the ball with his hands is nuts for a guy his size. I love it. His hands are like soft. Like, it looks like he trained catching eggs, throwing 50 yards. Like, that's what he feels like. But for Jalen Waddle's sake, I think that the Lions have a chance to take him. I think that if there's no receivers taken yet and the Lions are on the board, I think the Lions would take Jalen Waddle. But that's the only team that I think would take Jalen Waddle over Jamar Chase and over Devonta Smith. At least, early on in the draft.
So I think Devonta Smith would fit Jared Goff's game a little bit better than a Jalen Waddle. Because if I have Jalen Waddle, I want somebody that can get the ball downfield to him too. You know what I mean? Like, I want to take the top off that defense. I want to put that defensive back on his toes pretty quickly. And Jalen Waddle could do that as well. Like, I just don't want to utilize him in a short game in those quick slants either. Like, I want to be able to take the top off the defense. And I don't know, like Jared Goff, he's a little confused in that category. Like
he is.
But I mean, again, another situation. Whoever the Lions take, he's arguably the best receiver in that roster right away, and he's going to see an influx of heavy targets. And again, I'll take, like, I don't care how good the football team is. I want to see how many fantasy points I could score, and that's where the opportunity comes in. That's why I love T.J. Hockenson this year. I love this tape, and DeAndre Swift is such a dynasty darling right now.
All right, so let's go ahead and let's remove the Packers, and we got Rashad Bateman up next. Okay. So here we go.
I really like Rashad Bateman opposite of Terry McLaurin. I do. I do. That's a good marriage right there, right? Like, again, Terry McLaurin, very savvy route runner as well. Could take the top off of defense, has a really good speed. They got Logan Thomas, the big tight end there. Antonio Gibson, who come out of the backfield and run behind the scrimmage. Of course, J.D. McKissick. So Rashad Bateman, to me, would fit this. He opposites of Terry McLaurin very well. A very savvy route runner, kind of be the Cooper Kupp to offset Robert Woods, a little bit there. Just see a heavy amount of targets, be a consistent 80 to 95 reception kind of guy year in, year out, flirt right around there with like 1,100. Now we have 17 games. All these numbers are going to change, right? So now, 100 receptions, 1,100, 1,200 yards year in, year out. Sometimes a wide receiver 1, but mostly he's flirting right around with like wide receiver 13, 14, 15, the high end wide receiver 2. But again, if you have a guy who's year in, year out as a wide receiver 2, 13, 14, 15, that's dynasty gold. And call me the leprechaun searching for that because I need that on my dynasty roster. So this would be a great fit for him. Obviously, the quarterback situation is a big question mark here for Washington long term. But I mean, for right now, this year, it'd be a great fit. And for long term, I love it because I like what Washington has done over these last couple of drafts to improve their football team. They just need to find that quarterback.
Well, actually, I wish that Terrace Marshall would have gone here, but I'll take a shot.
You keep
I know. Well,
I want Terrace Marshall.
No. There's only 2. There's the Packers. Actually, there's 3. I think I had the Chargers possibly, but the Packers and Washington are the top 2 for sure.
Okay.
I just feel like that he fits, both schemes very well. He fits in need on both positions. I think I said San Diego because San Diego,
LA?
I'm sorry, the Chargers, LA Chargers. Where he could actually plug in for Mike Williams if they have to move on for Mike Williams. But
yeah, that's a good spot too. And what's good about if this was Terrace Marshall here in Washington, I would be the same with you. I'm like, I love this spot. He offsets Terry McLaurin perfectly as well. Terry McLaurin, a smaller receiver. A lot of their other options there are small. I mean, their biggest weapon probably coming in the backfield is Antonio Gibson, their running back. But Terrace Marshall would be that nice guy to offset Terry McLaurin, where Terry McLaurin can be that savvy route runner. Get a lot underneath, and you can use Terrace Marshall to stretch the field and be the big body. And then what you would really like there is Terrace Marshall being a red zone threat.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I mean, he is that target that would be, the go-to for Fitzmagic. And we all know Fitzmagic loves to throw those jump balls.
Oh, he does.
He would have a field day with Terrace Marshall.
This here, Chase, would be one of my least favorite spots for Terrace Marshall.
Well, so Terrace Marshall's actually not on this list. Good. I actually had the last one, which is, I think, actually great marriage, but it's the Tyler Boyd killer. We have Rondale Moore.
Okay.
Rondale Moore, who could end up sliding the second round for the first pick, right, with the Bengals, and it would make sense there. So
you could easily see him slip in the second round. I wouldn't take him in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, Rondale Moore would make sense, though, with the Bengals in the slot, where they have Tyler Boyd, who's going to be out of his contract in, I think, a year or 2. He adds a playmaking ability that could help out Joe Burrow. It obviously could end up opening up a little bit for T. Higgins, especially in the middle. If you have Rondale Moore running, some of these slants and whatnot out of the slot, it's interesting fit right there. How are you feeling?
Yeah, that would be an interesting fit. They don't have a very solid tight end. They have Drew Sample. So Zach Tyler, he wants to spread the ball out. He's going to run that spread offense out there. And he's going to have a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, and it's going to open things up for Rondale Moore a lot. They got it helped Joe Burrow. I think T. Higgins is definitely number 1 there. I don't know. It wouldn't be a spot I would overly love. It'd be a situation where I think Rondale Moore is like a wide receiver 3 stealing kind of player, honestly. Because I think in that situation, Tyler Boyd would still get his. You know what I mean? I think they're going to run the ball with Joe Mixon still. I think Tyler Boyd would still get his. Not to the point to be like he's a fancy relevant wide receiver, but for an NFL team, Tyler Boyd would still do well. And obviously, I think T. Higgins eats next year, so it wouldn't be a bad spot. But I honestly don't love it, and I honestly don't love a lot of receivers going everybody's arguing oh, the Bengals got to take Jamar Chase. They got to take Jamar Chase. No, they got to take an offensive tackle, which is weird though too, because honestly, their offensive line wasn't that good last year. But their 2 best offensive linemen are their tackles. So they really need guards and centers. So they're in a weird situation there. If it's me on the Bengals and he's there, I'm taking Kyle Pitts over Jamar Chase.
Woo,
I would.
Woo.
That's what they need. Yeah, he would dominate the middle. Because then you have Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins on the outside, and you got Kyle Pitts, and that'd be gross. I think Kyle Pitts would make the Bengals better more so than Jamar Chase.
Okay. That makes sense. It makes plenty of sense. And honestly, like when you talk about investing into the offense, especially when it comes to teams and the salary caps and whatnot, not necessarily the salary cap, but the amount of money that goes into your offense. I don't think that Jamar Chase would be a smart investment. I think they'd be better off waiting until the second or third round to grab a wide receiver just because of the positional investment that they'd be seeing in like 3 or 4 years from now with Joe Burrow, or I should say 4 or 5 years from now with Joe Burrow, Higgins. Obviously, they're going to have to replace Tyler Boyd because he's going to be out of there by that point. So it would make sense for them to go with either tight end or a tackle position, which you just brought up, is one of their stronger positions.
And there's like you said, there's going to be such good value in the second round at receiver. Yeah. And I actually heard, it's weird. I saw some stat today or heard it today that since 2015, out of all the first round receivers, only 2 of them have made a Pro Bowl. Only 2. Justin Jefferson and Amari Cooper were the only 2 since 2015 receivers to make a Pro Bowl. And it's been dominated by second round receivers. Guys like that have been going the second, like Michael Thomas has gone the second round. DK Metcalf has gone the second round. Tons of receivers have gone in the second round. And there's such good value there in the second round. With these wide receivers in the first round, a lot of them haven't been big time players. Now, that doesn't mean anything about last year's class. Like obviously, a guy like CeeDee Lamb to me is going to be a very successful receiver. But when I heard that stat today, it kind of blew my mind. You know what I mean? Like since 2015 over the last 6 years, out of all those first round receivers, only 2 have made a Pro Bowl.
That's pretty crazy.
Your mind's thinking, you're like, he's wrong. There's got to be somebody. But
no, well, yeah. I was like, man, was there nobody? But I mean, that makes sense. It does. I mean, we've seen just first round bust after first round bust, especially after the 2013 draft class where receivers started getting overdrafted again. It's been kind of crazy. So
what's even crazier is that Justin Jefferson didn't have the year he had last year. It'd only be Amari Cooper.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. That is crazy. Oh, man. All right, so we've been going on for 57 minutes now. We'll be 58 by the time I finish talking. If you have to get out of here, that's cool. But I could give you the option of hitting you like another question, or we could play the same game with the running back position.
Dude, I got nowhere to be. So whatever you want to do, it's your show, man. I'm here. You want to talk about some stuff? I got some time for you. So whatever you want to do.
Let's go ahead and let's hop on to this game just because I did have fun with it and messing around. And let's play it with the running back position. Unless you want to – actually, you know what? Let's do it with one question first and we'll hop on to the game.
Okay.
I want to know about the Ramondre Stevenson because this is somebody that, I'm not that invested in. I don't understand it. But Javion Hawkins, I'm liking a little bit more. And looking at the nerd score, they're 1 point apart, pretty much separation. Let's just say that both these guys end up in ideal situations for themselves. Like, let's just say that Stevenson, lands in Miami where Gaskins is more of the pass catching back on third down. Stevenson becomes the first and second down back, possibly the goal line back. And then we have Javion Hawkins who goes to like Jacksonville, right? Who ends up as the third down back over there as a pass catcher. Which one are you going in a draft if they end up in ideal situations?
I mean, ideal situation, you got to go, I think, Ramondre Stevenson. I mean, he's a bigger guy, 227, 6 foot. I mean, he's that big running back. So, and he's a guy who doesn't have a lot of tear on him. He only had 165 carries at Oklahoma. So it's not like he's got like all this wear and tear on him. Got a very good stiff arm. Doesn't run a lot of routes, but like in an ideal situation, I mean, you got to take that either. I like Garrett's interpretation of that when it comes to pass catcher running backs. Either you can or you can't, right? Like every Wisconsin running back, they can, but they just don't do it at Wisconsin. It's just weird. Like the ideal situation is like Stevenson to me, he just has to be a guy that gets a lot of carries, right? Because his speed's not what you really love out of him. And it's weird because like Ramondre Stevenson for me falls in that category of running backs this year. That's kind of like, you know what I mean? Like I'll take him in the third round, but like, if I'm being honest, we can sit here and talk about Ramondre Stevenson and what's ideal. But if you want my realistic expectation of Ramondre Stevenson is he's nothing more than a solid backup that's never going to offer much to your fantasy football team unless he goes down and he's starting for like a game or two. Like he's Jeff Wilson for your playoffs, you know what I mean? Or something on those lines. I don't think he offers a lot. I think there's other high upside, much higher upside running backs. But of those two, I would take the Ramondre Stevenson just because he's the bigger 6 foot, 227, solid in between the tackles, doesn't have a lot of carries there. So offer some upside there from Oklahoma. And maybe because we didn't see enough of him out of Oklahoma, there's still more room to grow there and more for me to like show me he could be more. which is
like
nobody predicted James Robinson was come out and be this big stud muffin. So let's see Ramondre Stevenson do it in an ideal situation.
Okay, cool. No, I like that. I mean, that's something I was kind of like vying with because I think both these guys can be role players in whatever offense they go to if they do go to an ideal situation. So I'm like, man, if they do, like, I can't take them any earlier than the third round. Like, I would be dying if I took any earlier. Like, that's a late third round pick.
100%.
A prayer, and they're playing up my taxi squad for 2 or 3 years first. But could a Javion Hawkins end up being like a James White type player? Could Ramondre Stevenson end up being a Jordan Howard who might last longer in the league type thing? And I think both are possible. So I was like looking at ideal situations, trying to figure out which one I would actually go with.
And they're two different and completely different skill sets.
Yep.
But you're saying ideal situation, that means Ramondre Stevenson is going to be the guy who's going to get a lot of carries because that's his ideal situation, right? Like to be fed the ball. Obviously, Hawkins going to be a situation to be thrown the ball, and that's again you might be talking a lot of catches, not a lot of outcome out of that. So I would take Stevenson to offer more like touchdown potential, and that's where the gold is in fantasy football. So, and like you said, third round. I think this year in this draft, that third round is just almost all running backs for me, right? Like I'm looking at all these guys like. Who can I take at running back here? And then all the rest of those receivers being the fourth.
You're pretty much going with a set amount of running backs. And then you're going like, 3, 4 running backs or so. Middle 2, maybe 3, and then 4 or 5. But then you're going with the stud wide receivers, and you're going with the second and third string wide receivers, and then it's all just the fill-in running backs at that point. Yeah. So let's go ahead and let's play this game because I actually had fun with it last time. But we need a fifth running back. We'll get there when
Who are the 5 you got? Who are the 5 you got?
So we got, of course, Najee Harris.
Yeah.
We have Travis Etienne. We have Javonte Williams, and then Antonio Gainwell.
Gainwell?
Or I'm sorry, did I say? I was thinking Antonio Gibson. Yes, Kenneth Gainwell. I'm sorry.
Well, let's go Michael Carter Jr.
All right, that works. All right.
I think he's in that second tier. I think I like Khalil Herbert a little bit. I think he offers some upside there. I know I ripped on my podcast. I called him Gluteus Minimus, but Jarrett Patterson offers some good upside after watching all the other running backs. So like Khalil Herbert, Elijah Mitchell.
What about Trey Sermon? Is he up there for you? Ooh, that really was not good.
I could see him. Like if he ends up being good, like I wouldn't be like flabbergasted, but like I don't think he's going to be anything special. I mean, and I'm an Ohio State guy. You know what I mean? I watch that's the team I watch every game.
He dominated Clemson. He did.
But you know what? Everybody has a couple games. I mean, what was all that? Now to be fair with Trey Sermon, he was coming off injury, into a new team. So it's like, not do of a team, but you know what I mean? Like I could see Trey Sermon, like that's the thing versus Clemson. Where was that running back the entire other time? You know what I mean? Like that was if that was a running back I saw consistently, then that's great. But it was just pretty much versus Clemson in the game before he looked pretty good. I mean, he set the Ohio State all-time rushing record. That's insane. Ohio State, it's like Zeke.
Yeah, that is
Jordan,
crazy.
Robert Smith, like Archie Griffin.
Wow.
Come on.
No, that is crazy. I didn't even think about that. That's pretty nuts. So let's start out with Najee Harris.
Let's do it.
You ready?
Oh, yeah.
Oh man!
Oh, perfect spot.
This would have to be the 118.
Yeah.
Right? Or do you think he might last the second round? Because I don't think he lasts the second round personally.
No,
it'll be like right in that late round range.
I saw a report today, again from people that I trust, that like Travis, like they're starting to hear word inside the inner circle, like Travis Etienne's number 1 running back on a lot of people's boards, which is a little different here to me. But like I think this would be. Yeah, like if he went to 18, it wouldn't shock me because they need a running back. I mean, I know Myles Gaskin for the fans community looked pretty good last year. He did some solid things, but like he's a really good number 2. Like he could be the Kareem Hunt to Nick Chubb, right? Let him be that. But this is a great spot. Another Alabama Crimson Tide player going to play with Tua Tagovailoa could be the focal point of this offense. Just kind of how I talked up Devontae Smith in this. I could talk up Najee Harris. He's the number 1 weapon in this offense. He's going to get fed the ball a ton. They got to protect their rookie quarterback as he develops into the NFL game here. Who kept getting benched for Ryan Fitzpatrick last year. A guy who's very good out of the backfield and has very soft hands and could catch a lot of those and be Tua Tagovailoa's safety net here. So again, he's going to a situation that's get a ton of carries and probably be their number one weapon in this offense. I think it's a great fit with Brian Flores and the scheme he wants to run. I would love this fit with the Miami Dolphins here. Like you said, it had to be at 18, but I mean, it could also be very high in the second round. I mean, what if none of these running backs go in the first? It's going to be hard to kind of see. I've read tons of reports that Najee Harris is the pick for the Steelers if he's there. So he'd have to go to the Dolphins here from the slip to the Steelers. But I mean, I don't know what you think, but I think this is a fantastic fit. I mean, Najee Harris is a very special running back. I know he's the highest graded running back for you mentioned the nerd score. He's the highest graded running back to come out of the nerd score so far in 2 years. And that's ahead of guys like DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins. I think J.K. Dobbins is the second highest graded running back coming out. But Najee Harris is that big bodied receiver running back who could run routes, has very soft hands, and could pretty much do it all. Not as much wiggle, but he's a big guy, so I don't really hold that against him. I like Najee Harris a ton. He's my number one running back in this class. Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, same for me. I love Najee Harris. I think that would be a perfect fit. However, I just don't know if the Dolphins would pull a trigger, that early. They're, seems like they're very analytics based in their decision making, especially with the draft situation. I'm very interested to see, if they pull the trigger on a running back, because Myles Gaskin, he did all right. And it seems like no matter what running back they plug in, they do all right without it. So, it'd be interesting to see. I like the landing spot. I think that it would be phenomenal. Yeah. I'm just curious to know if it would happen.
We got to play the game. The game is Zizu and the Dolphins. So we got to love it.
Yep. No, I'll take it. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Where does Najee Harris go on this chart? Again, he's one of those players. Where does he go in this chart that you don't love? I mean, I wouldn't love Travis Etienne on the Steelers. I would absolutely foam at the mouth with Travis Etienne on the Jets.
I don't know if I love Najee Harris with the Steelers, to be honest with you, just because of the lack of the offensive line, but he can still work out in the passing game to an extent. I also don't know if I love him with the Cardinals because I have such high expectations that I'd be afraid that Kyler Murray would take away some goal line, carries. So
the fact that he's a bigger man, I mean, I think Javonte Williams is the best fit for the Steelers. I understand what you're saying.
Yes, I agree with you.
I understand what you're saying there because the fact that their line's so bad and how easily people bounce off of Javonte Williams, he'd be a good fit for the Steelers.
He would be. So let's go with him next. He's up next. Let's do it.
Let's see if he lands. So far, every time we ask for a player, I think I'd really like to see him on the Steelers here, Chase.
Oh no, the Falcons. That's not a bad fit.
That's not a bad fit. They just signed Mike Davis there, so Mike Davis could kind of be. I know Javonte Williams has he has decent hands, but Mike Davis could be that third down back, be that solid pass protector, and Javonte Williams your first and second down running back. Yeah, this is a great offense. This is a great pick because you have to assume that he goes in the second round, right? He's a high pick in the second round. And let's say they take Kyle Pitts with their first. So now you have an offense of Javonte Williams, Mike Davis, Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, and Kyle Pitts. I mean, come on, 28-3 in the third quarter. We're going to hold that lead.
No, absolutely. And I really love that pick. Where are they picking in the second round?
I have no idea. I mean, they pick high in the first. So they pick what, fourth in the first? So it has to be what, fourth in the second, right?
Yeah, so if they have a
34, 36. I don't remember any trades that gave away their Oh, wait. What did they give up for Hayden Hurst? It wasn't a second, was it?
Oh, man. I'm looking it up right now as we speak.
Yeah, I looked it up. Did they give up a second for Hayden Hurst, or was it a third?
Oh, I think it was a second.
But was it this year or was it last year?
I feel like every time I turn around, they give away their picks. All right, so let's see. Yep, they have the second round pick, 35 overall.
Okay, so this is a realistic landing spot for Javonte Williams. It'd probably be a really good pick for the Falcons to go Kyle Pitts and Javonte Williams. My two co-hosts have Javonte Williams as their number one running back in this class. I have Javonte Williams as my number third running back, but that could change after the NFL draft. It depends where Travis Etienne goes. Because I have him and Travis Etienne pretty close. They're neck and neck for me. So it'd be close. The Falcons is a really good spot for him. I want to see Travis Etienne and end up in an outside zone scheme, which is again what the Jets are going to run, which would be a perfect fit for him. But for the Falcons, this is not a bad pick whatsoever. I mean, to go with Smith, Javonte Williams, a very talented running back out of North Carolina, has soft hands, could run the ball very well. Again, we mentioned it earlier. Like, I mean, players just literally bounce off this guy.
Yep.
I mean, he's got
He's
such
physical.
good contact balance. He's a physical running back that can hit the hole well. Very solid vision. So this is a solid spot. And again, we're talking about the top 3 running backs in this class. I mean, I have these guys ranked 1, 2, 3. Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, and Javonte Williams. That's how I take them, because after that, the cliff drops off so much. Then I take the receiver. I remember I put out those rankings I mentioned earlier, and I said, okay, if I was in a draft right now, I'd go Najee Harris 1, Travis Etienne 2, Javonte Williams 3, Kyle Pitts 4 overall. Then I would take Devontae Smith, then Jamar Chase. And people are like, oh, Jamar Chase at 6? What? Let me play in a league with you. And I'm like, okay. It's just, it wasn't, I don't like Jamar Chase. It's like I can get a receiver in the second round at 2-1. I can get Rashad Bateman or maybe Elijah Moore, a Terrace Marshall. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But you're not getting a Najee Harris. That's for sure. So
no, I completely agree with you. And I actually love that landing spot even more so than I like the Steelers. It'll be interesting to see if that kid actually go that in the early second round, which is where we saw a lot of the studs go in 2020. So it's very possible. It's definitely the realm of possibilities. Now let's go Etienne. Ready?
Yeah, if he goes to the Steelers, I hate it.
But the Jets, that's what you really want to see.
Yeah, when I was breaking down his tape, I said my favorite spot for him would be the Jets. Like, he fits that scheme that Daniel's going to run out there perfectly. The outside zone scheme, plant your foot, get up north, go. The opportunity to catch the football. Now, here going the Cardinals. We know the Cardinals are looking for a solid running back, right? They need a guy to come in here and play and be an explosive running back, because everything they have now is not. They have David Johnson. They got Mark Ingram. They got Chase Edmonds. Then they signed did they sign James Conner? Oh, wait, Mark Ingram went to Houston. Houston. Yeah. I've done that 3 times in a row about Mark Ingram. Let's say he went to the Cardinals. But I mean, this would be a good spot for Etienne. Like I said, I mean, somebody that Kyler Murray could, fake that run and dump the ball off to and use his speed, like have those two run together on the outside. That'd be a pretty little thing, or have him out in the flat or some of those bubble screens for Etienne and still be the guy behind the backfield. I mean, I'm not worried about anybody else ahead of him here. And I know that there's a lot of rumors they're desperately trying to move up in this draft to draft a receiver. Like, they're very interested in adding a young receiver to this core. So you do that with DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, and you're having a little Travis Etienne there. That'd be a nice fit. I can't hate this spot.
I don't hate it. I don't love it. I actually talked about how if they didn't believe in Chase Edmonds, then Michael Carter would actually be the best fit, which is funny because you brought in Michael Carter in to be the the number 5 running back. I think that it works with Travis Etienne. I think they get the best of all worlds, and we've seen them invest in the running back position when they gave Drake a contract after they traded for Drake. So we know that they're willing to invest in the running back position. Also, Travis Etienne, he's not great, but I mean, he's solid in with his blocking, correct?
Going back, I remember, I mean, he's one of the very first prospects I scouted back in the time. I had to go back and look at some of my notes to like what I do after this is now I go back through all my notes again. And I think he was okay at run blocking, but I mean, again, I think Travis Etienne's one of those guys that we've been talking about him so long. He's kind of like dropped in some people's eyes just because he's not the newest flavor. You know what I mean? But like, he's so well accomplished over his Clemson career. I mean, this is a guy that has just fantastic stats. I don't have him in front of me over his career at Clemson. And I know he took a small step back this year when it came to his running back production, but his pass catching production took a big step forward here, which would be great. Like you mentioned, like Chase Edmonds shined a little bit there too, but Chase Edmonds looked great on the ground. Didn't he have like a 200-yard rushing game there for Arizona last year?
I believe so. If not, it was the year before that.
I mean, he's ACC's all-time leading rusher. He's got 4,952 yards in his 4 years at Clemson. Somebody who even had a freshman came out here and looked really good contact balance. We saw his reception game take a huge step forward here in 2020. So for me, I think Travis Etienne, he's my number 2 overall prospect in this draft right now because he offers such home run ability. He's such a solid running back where it's kind of falls in a situation of like, I always mention, is Alvin Kamara the best running back in the NFL? No, but he is used perfectly in that scheme, in that system to offer a ton of fantasy football production and be a very solid contributor for that team. I think Travis Etienne can come in and be that kind of running back.
Yeah, I mean, sitting there and looking at it with ETN, his big playability, it can only help, talking about with, Kyler Murray, because of the fact that Kyler Murray can freeze these linebackers, freeze these safeties, as they come up into the box. So you could be talking about some massive plays. Normally stacked boxes leads to big plays as a whole, although they stack it because there's nobody behind them to be able to catch up with them or be able to defend that. So I like that fit.
He's a home run threat. He's a 3-down player. And this is a guy who had 78 total touchdowns throughout his career. 16 of those touchdowns were over 40 yards. So he's a home run threat kind of player. You know what I mean? Like, so him and the Cardinals can use that in the backfield. Definitely when you already have to worry about a guy like Kyler Murray being a home run threat, right? Like you have this two-headed dragon behind that backfield of guys that could take it to the house behind the line of scrimmage.
No, I love that. Love it. I love it more that we actually talked it out. So you built me up on that one. All right. We're down to the Steelers and the Jets. We have Kenneth Gainwell, who I think in both these situations is kind of a nightmare to go to either one. Do you have one that you prefer?
It's definitely not the Steelers. I mean, in this day and age, with Kenneth Gainwell, I think he's fast enough. That outside zone scheme the Jets are probably going to run, that Kyle Shanahan scheme, is so running back friendly. I mean, look what it did for guys like Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson. You know what I mean? Like, look at the numbers, what it's done historically. I mean, it made oh my God, I'm forgetting his name, out of Atlanta, opposite of Devontae Freeman. Like, he just signed somewhere too.
Tevin Coleman.
Look what it did for Tevin Coleman. I mean, look what that system does for these guys. So I think Michael Carter Jr. or Kenneth Gainwell, I think that would help the Jets. I would definitely hate him on the Steelers. I don't think that's a good fit.
Well, also, I mean, the wide zone run scheme system that they run, it's it also hurts smaller running backs as a whole, because if you can't find a hole, you have to create a hole essentially. And if you're a smaller running back like Aaron Jones, for example, who had big plays and stuff, but tended to dance behind the line when he couldn't find that hole looking for it, that was one of the biggest reasons why I was shocked that the Green Bay Packers re-signed Aaron Jones, just because he wasn't a system fit. Like I said, he had big plays. He's a tremendous running back. He's one of my top running backs in the NFL, but I didn't want him to go back to Green Bay. So, looking at that, I don't think that Kenneth Gainwell really fits either system. But like you said, I think the Jets would have to be the best one, because we already know that the Steelers don't really target the running back. They'd rather go to Juju Smith-Schuster for 5 yards than give it to a running back out of the backfield.
And we gotta remember too, the Steelers' offensive line was bad last year, and they just lost Pouncey, and they lost their left tackle in Villanueva. So
no.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, Kenneth Gainwell would take such a huge drop for me, and I'm very high on Kenneth Gainwell, very high.
Yeah,
this is such a huge blow to Kenneth Gainwell's value right now.
You would have to hope they scheme him wise. I mean, he's 5'11", 195 pounds. And this is a guy who can make that. He's a one-cut runner, which would help there as well.
Yeah, true.
I mean, he gets upfield in a hurry. He's got really good vision. I think Chase, the optimistic point you'd have to be here is like, okay, Kenneth Gainwell has the opportunity to be the man, right? Like, can Pittsburgh learn to throw? I mean, they're going to have a new offensive coordinator. Was that last year? There's a new offensive coordinator. Is it this year or last year?
I'm having brain fart right now. I believe they brought one in, which is why the play calling changed so sporadically and went to all these short dump offs more so than what they have done in the past. But I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, I don't like Kenneth Gainwell can't be used up the middle at all. I mean, like,
no,
linebackers destroyed him in college. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't think there's a chance that he ends up here. Like, I don't think it's possible. And if he does, realistic. You might as well destroy the value. So we have the last team. We have the Jets, all right? And, we talked about how Michael Carter's the last one, but would you be more excited to see Michael Carter end up here, or maybe Trey Sermon, who might be a little bit more physical, like you brought up?
I would like any running back that ends up in the situation, honestly, because it's such a strong system, right? Like, you're going to go into a situation, you're going to have Zach Wilson, so you're going to have a rookie quarterback. You have a young wide receiver already in Denzel Mims. You have, they signed Corey Davis, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Corey Davis as your veteran out there. So, like, they're going to have to run the football. And if this is going to be like Kyle Shanahan's system, which you got to assume it's going to be the outside zone, it's going to be very running back friendly. A lot of outside zone runs. They're going to set up these position. Like a guy like Michael Carter Jr. here, this would be a great fit. I mean, this is a guy who has very good vision. He can start and stop on a dime. He can explode. So for me, this would be a really good fit for him. You could throw him to football here in the Jets. But I mentioned before we were doing our running backs, we were talking about opportunities. Like I will literally take any running back that goes to the Jets. Like they're going to get a big boost to my rankings, right? Like, so if it's not one of these top guys, whoever it is, they're going to get a boost because even if it's just for the 2 years, we did a whole show on if you're running back one once, you have at best like a 17% chance to be a running back one again once in the rest of your lifetime as a fantasy football running back. So even if he's going to be the guy for the Jets for 2 years, so if they take him in the second round or third round, he's just a guy for 2 years, I would expect that to be running back 2 production at worst. So whether it's Trey Sermon, Michael Carter Jr., Kenneth Gainwell, like I'm taking any running back the Jets take, honestly, even if it's just for 1 year, right? Like running backs are such just a plug and play position anyways in fantasy football. It's the reason why when you do your dynasty startups, you draft all these talented young receivers because that's the only position in your rookie draft where you can draft a guy and start him day one. That's where you can find the James Robinsons, get the Antonio Gibsons in the second round. I mean, if you took you have a stud team last year and all you need was running back help, and then all of a sudden you drafted Antonio Gibson and James Robinson in the second and fourth round of your rookie draft, and your team's loaded. You know what I mean? Like it's the plug and play position. So, and there's always to be teams that need looking for running back help because nobody wants to give those running backs second contracts. So a team like the Jets is a good example. Like whoever goes there is going to see a massive fantasy football bump. Like Travis Etienne, that's my dream spot for him. Like I can see him being a running back one in that Jets system, and that's where I want him to go. So yeah, I'll take Trey Sermon there. I think he could succeed. I mean, come on, Chance. Chase. He's all-time Ohio State leading rusher.
Oh, that's insane to me, but I love it, man. I think honestly, like the more that you bring it up, we talk about like Michael Carter and his elusiveness, right? He could end up sliding in the slot a little bit there because they don't really have a slot receiver if Jamison Crowder gets hurt. It makes sense for the Jets who just need pieces or playmakers on this offense.
Yeah, I mean, he's a player that the staff can trust. I mean, he had no fumbles over his last 2 years, so he's got very solid hands, very secure with the footwork. This is a guy who returned kicks for North Carolina as well. I mean, he averaged 24.5 yards per kick in 2019. So it's just the big thing you have to worry about him is like for his pass catchability, like he's a body catcher, not overly fantastic in pass protection. And just like I like him on the outside, but that's why I think this would be a good fit because he'd be in the outside zone, so I think this would be a good fit. And like you mentioned, you could use him in the passing game, use him in the outside, use him in the slot, even the way he runs the football. So yeah, Michael Carter Jr. He's an interesting prospect, I mean, like for that second tier guys, like he falls in there with the Kenneth Gainwells, Michael Carter Jr.'s. I have Khalil Herbert kind of up there, even though he's not overly fast, but there's some things I see in his game that I can see some good upside in. But I think it comes down to like, for me in that second tier, it's like Kenneth Gainwell, Michael Carter Jr. Then you get like the Elijah Mitchells, you get, experiments like that. So, but they'll be the next running backs off the board. And I also think they'll be the next running back boards off the board in NFL drafts. Like I see those two guys going probably third round potentially. Yeah.
I think third round's about right.
Yeah.
I think Trey Sermon's more a fourth round pick. I think the Michael Carter is, he's such a significant role player in certain offenses. Certain teams will actually, reach for those guys. So I like that.
And we'll know in a week. That's what's great is we're going to know.
God, I can't wait. I can't wait.
We're going to have so many answers. And then we're going to be so excited in the hits. And it's like, man, we got nothing for a couple months. Nothing. Let me join a startup.
Yo, I cannot do 28.
We got the Scott Fish Bowl.
We do. I cannot do 28 leagues again this year.
28? Yeah,
I was in 28.
I'm down to 20. And it's like
we were talking about Shane. Shane was in like 50 something last year, 60 something. That's crazy.
Gotta get the Dynasty GM, man. It's the only way to do it.
There you go. Can you let everybody know where to find you real quick? We're gonna go ahead and get out of here. Where can everybody find you?
On Twitter at Dynasty Rich, and everything else is at dynastynerds.com. Check it out. We got everything you need to dominate your Dynasty Fantasy Football League. Just check it out.
Yep, go check them out, dynastynerds.com. You guys can find us stuff at joinourscircle_fantasyintervention.com. And of course, y'all can find me at ff_intervention. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Rich, for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
And thank you guys for letting us intervene with your fantasy football life. We're out.